Thank you, Madam Chair. I don't want to be argumentative, but I'm skeptical. I want somebody to explain to me why we need a Space Force, particularly when it's not going to include NRO, NASA, OSC, the private launch companies, missile defense. I mean, it strikes me as a solution in search of a problem. Are you guys you really can't manage this now under the auspices of the Air Force? I'm not anti, but I'm skeptical, I guess.
So, Senator, I'll take a first shot at that. Fundamentally, we are concerned about the risk of losing our advantage in space.
So how does an organizational change of moving the boxes around affect that one way or the other?
Well, I would just go further in saying that when you look at the paradigm shift in terms of historically, we have operated in space in a permissive environment. We have tremendous dependencies and capabilities that are space-based or space-enabled. We now have adversaries, peer-level potential adversaries who are focused, quite focused. In fact, in 2015, both of them reorganized, China and Russia, their military for increased focus on their space capabilities. And they're looking at how they can negate our advantages in space.
I certainly understand that, and today's headline is India successfully tests satellite killer. I mean, that's this morning. And I understand the change in the dynamic and offensive and defensive capabilities. I just don't understand creating a new box with a new name within the Air Force increases our ability to deal with these issues. That's what I'm troubled by. I understand the challenge, and I understand the importance of meeting it, but I don't see why this, particularly when it's not comprehensive. There's a lot of the space infrastructure that's not included in this new entity. I'm just asking a kind of, perhaps I ought to ask your office, what does this gain us in terms of capability? It just seems to me it's drawing new boxes and having new people.
Sure. I think there's two sides to it. One is the threat side and needing to really focus people on that and prioritize it.
Are we not focused now?
Well,
The Air Force isn't paying attention to this now?
It's part of STRATCOM's mission to defend space, and it's the person running that mission has a lot of other priorities. So there's one thought to segment space and the defense of space to one individual, one organization. The other thought is just on the acquisition side. What we reported on is there's a lot of players involved in space. There's a lot of fragmentation, and you find that really affects the ability to get capability out quickly. There seems to be a lot of disconnects that happen just because of the way.
It seems to me that's a management challenge. And do you have an estimate of the incremental cost of creating this entity over and above current expenditures for all of these purposes? In other words, you understand what I mean, the incremental cost?
Yeah, I think DOD has done its cost estimates.
What's the number?
So the first year of the Space Force would be $72 million. At the end of the FYDP at the FY24, it'd be up to $500 million annually. And you're talking about $2 billion total over the next 5 years.
But, so $500 million a year, $500 million a year in organizational change, and I guess are you coming before us saying we can't manage this now and we need to spend $500 million a year? You understand what I'm asking, I'm sure.
I would say
Convince me that this makes some sense, that it's worth $500 million a year.
Again, the transition from operating in space in a permissive environment with all of the capabilities and dependencies to a warfighting environment really requires a focused approach. We're doing it at 3 legs of the triad, essentially. The first is the U.S. Space Command. That's the employment of the joint force, operational employment of the joint force on a day-to-day basis.
Is that going to go away under this proposal?
No, in fact, it will be it was recently directed by the President, and the confirmation of the commander of U.S. Space Command is pending with the Senate. I believe it arrived this week. So that's the employment of the force. The critical organize, train, and equip component is the service component. And that really is the doctrine, the training, the plans, the personnel development. It is the unified and singular focus on space as a warfighting domain that is very difficult to achieve unless you have that unified sole responsibility and custody.
I'm out of time, but I'd appreciate it if you could supply for the record a 1 or 2 page justification for the incremental cost of the organizational change and outlining what the tangible benefits will be of this change.
Yes, I will, Senator.
Because I think a lot of your capability now, and I'm not sure this is going to add anything. Thank you.